All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Money Talks. I am your host, Bill Barhydt, founder and CEO at Abra. We have a lot to talk about today. For those of you who don't know, we are broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope. It's awesome. I think we reach thousands of people a week now, if not tens of thousands. So I'll give a little feedback here. Sorry about that. So yeah, we have a great show planned. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of questions coming in already from all over the world. I see the questions teed up. We'll get to them in short order. Keep them coming. If you hear us talk about something in the next few minutes that you have a question about, feel free to ask on any of the channels I mentioned, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We will find it. We have support people in the streams who will also answer user-specific questions if they can. They may redirect you to support@abra.com. Lots happening in the crypto world as always. Never a dull week. I wouldn't mind a little bit of a news-free week and just focus on building the business, but that's not going to happen in my world, I think, for a long time. We'll get to the PayPal news. There was some news on Binance. Wasn't planning to spend too much time on it unless anybody has any questions. You can read about it on CoinDesk, Fortune, I mean, crazy news there. Let's do an update on Bitcoin. So let me get my chart going here. So you probably have seen that we've reached new yearly highs on Bitcoin, which is super interesting. This is the let me move myself out of the way here. Sorry for that. This is the 4-hour chart uh, for Bitcoin, which basically shows us late September through today, right? And so you can see, if you can see my mouse down here, I don't know if you can see that, but basically at the bottom left, we have what's called a consolidation, which means all of the run-ups from earlier kind of consolidated around this 10,000-ish price range. Then we had a nice run up to 11,000 and change, another consolidation. So you're going to hear me use this consolidation phrase a lot. When you're in a market that's going up, this is pretty bullish. You want to see this. And then we had another run up, which basically tapped out at the new highs of the year, 13,000, about 13,800 earlier this week, which was awesome. And now we seem to be consolidating just below that. As of this morning, we're in the 13,500 range, which is nice. It's a little bit of a bump up from overnight. So that's really bullish, but it gets better. Okay, so let's go to the daily chart here, and here you see, now this goes back to in the bottom left here, you see the March lows. This was when the stock markets really tanked because of the COVID shutdowns taking effect. Okay, and um, since then we've had a significant number of run-ups. So you see here run-up, consolidation, um, and we had another run-up, consolidation, a little bit of a pullback. But when we had this pullback, we didn't make a new low versus this previous low. That's also bullish. Consolidation, run-up. So again, run-up, consolidation, run-up, consolidation, run-up, consolidation. This is extremely bullish, but it gets even better. Okay, so let's pull out a little bit here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go out, zoom out, zoom out. And now what we're looking at is over here in the upper left, we're looking at the 2019 highs from last year, right, which are right at about 14,000. So we closed about the high this week about 200 points shy of that high. Once we get past that high, it is clear sailing until we get to about, let's see here. Here is the 2017, 2018 highs. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see that. And that, of course, was just shy of 20,000. Now, I don't have to zoom out anymore because I can tell you that once we get past 20,000, there is no resistance. We have clean air from 20,000 to probably 50,000 because once we hit 25, as I've been saying, the momentum we have is going to carry us to 50, in my opinion. No guarantees. Bitcoin is going to go up and down a lot between now and then. You know, my suggestion is if you're a long-term investor, buy it, don't worry about it, and sit back and enjoy the ride. If you're an active trader, there's going to be lots of peaks and valleys to take advantage of. Either way, it's going to be super interesting over the coming weeks and months for sure. Okay, so in addition to let me get out of this. So in addition to talking about Bitcoin, I also wanted to mention to you that we have a really interesting new product, this Abra Marketplace. And I'm going to demonstrate this for you in a moment. So what is this Abra Marketplace, right? So basically what we've done is we've created a new way to buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It's kind of an experiment, but we're fully committed to it. So basically, it's a simpler and easier way to buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies via Abra.com, but right into your Abra app. So if you've ever used a travel comparison website, you know, where you type in your travel details and it shows you lots of different airline options, for example, hotel options for your trip. If you've ever done that, then you know exactly how this new Abra.com marketplace works. So you basically tell us which cryptocurrency you want to buy, which currency you want to pay in, dollars, euros, pounds, whatever, how much you want to buy, and which payment method you want to use. And we'll be adding more payment methods over time. So we present all of the options available to you, um, along with the total amount of crypto you receive for each payment option. So you can actually see on a per payment option basis which option is the cheapest. So you paste in the Abra wallet address that you want to receive your new currency to, and I'll show you in a second how that works, and Abra handles the rest. So I've been using this to buy Bitcoin via Apple Pay pretty much nonstop since it launched because it's a really fun way to do demos because I can use Face ID, which I'm going to show you now, to do a demo. And it's by far the easiest way to demonstrate buying Bitcoin that I've ever seen. So if you want to get your friends into Bitcoin, this is a cool way to do it. So let me give you a quick demo of how this works. I'm going to bring up the demo here. All right, so I've got my Abra app with our demo balance. And what I'm going to do is I want to add money, and I'm going to add money via a crypto deposit. So I'm going to choose deposit cryptocurrency. And of course, I'm going to choose Bitcoin because I'm going to buy some Bitcoin. And what I need to do is I need to copy this address. So you need to see the copy button here. Press copy. That's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my browser, okay? And you see here, this is the Abra.com webpage, right? So nothing special here. As I scroll down, I see that there's this new marketplace interface. I can buy Bitcoin, right? So I can actually change this to different cryptocurrencies, but of course I'm buying Bitcoin here. I am going to type in $25 and I'm going to press buy Bitcoin now. Now I see all of the different options that I have. I'm going to choose Apple Pay, right, as the preferred payment method. And of course, I'm actually based in California. Now, the reason you want to choose your location is there's different payment options for your country and maybe even your states, depending upon which laws and rules might apply. Now, to pay with Apple Pay, there's only one payment option, right? It's called MoonPay. So I'm going to press MoonPay. And it allows me to then paste in that wallet address that I remember I copied from the Abra app. This way it knows where to send the Bitcoin when I buy it. The Bitcoin that I buy has to go somewhere. Well, it's going to go into my Abra app. So I press buy now, and then I press buy with Apple Pay. I'm going to change this to be my Capital One debit card. And I'm going to double click to use, yep, the Apple Pay service here, and voila, I've just bought Bitcoin, and it will show up in a few minutes in my Abra app, and you can actually see here on the screen the processing time. Really cool. Okay, so check it out. It's super easy to use. I love it, and it's a lot of fun. So that's the Abra Marketplace on Abra.com. So in addition to that, we actually have some interesting news for you today. As you know, we also run, for those of you in, let's say, the Philippines, for example, or in Central America, like in Guatemala, for example, and other places, we have these cash networks that our partners run that allow you to buy Bitcoin or deposit cash into the Abra app as a stablecoin via those local partners. And today I'm excited to inform you that we have a really new partnership in the UAE and also in Asia with a company called Economic Exchange Center. Economic Exchange Center will allow you to cash in and cash out via your Abra wallet by visiting the Economic Exchange Center branches, which are located in Daira, Dubai, and Sharjah. I think I'm saying Sharjah correctly. And you can check out the website. We will post the website in all of the locations where we have the show running. So you can see it on YouTube, for example, and we'll post it on Facebook. But it's economicexchangecenter.com, and you'll be able to see all of their locations. Super cool. So once your wallet is funded, of course, you can buy, sell, and hold and trade all of the cryptocurrencies, as well as earn 10% interest on your dollars and 5% on your Bitcoin and Ethereum, et cetera, in the Abra app. So super excited to have the Middle East on board, and we're looking forward to getting more countries beyond just the UAE integrated into the Abra app. So well done to the Abra team. Welcome aboard Economic Exchange Center. All right. Got a lot of other news beyond Abra happening in crypto this week. So let's talk about that for a moment. The big news, of course, was PayPal. That seemed to coincide with the big run up earlier this week, right? So I think it was the same day. I don't remember now if it was Monday or Tuesday. But basically, PayPal made good on all these rumors from earlier this year that they'd be integrating crypto into their services. I think this is great news for Abra and the broader cryptocurrency space. We've always believed that this market is so early, and all of you have a lot of brilliant foresight to be able to get into this market so early, and the market's so young that a rising tide in the crypto market is going to raise all boats, and it's going to help all of us. So with their 350 million users globally and 26 million merchants, this can only be seen as great news for the broader crypto space. And this is especially great news for PayPal merchants who want to accept Bitcoin for payments. I think at some point you'll be able to use something like an Abra wallet even to pay at a PayPal merchant who might accept Bitcoin. I don't think they're supporting that out of the gates, but I think eventually, they are going to support that. I don't think it's all one big wow. Similar to what Square did with their Cash App, PayPal users will not be able to self-custody crypto. That means that they will only allow you to gain price exposure to those crypto assets. And unlike Abra, you won't be able to like withdraw to a hardware wallet or send crypto to other users. And you will be able to make payments eventually across the PayPal network, but I'm not sure that you're allowed to do that out of the gate at first. I think they're only allowing you to hold Bitcoin and get price exposure to it. But it's definitely a start for sure. I see PayPal becoming its own Lightning Network or one of these so-called layer 2 solutions for crypto to address payment scalability issues, right? If every single PayPal user started buying Bitcoin tomorrow and started sending Bitcoin on the blockchain, it would actually be a disaster because, the blocks would get filled and it would work. So PayPal is going to have no choice if they get into crypto, but eventually to become a layer 2 solution, in my opinion. So in other words, eventually I can self-custody my Bitcoin, put it in my PayPal wallet when I want to pay, which is super cool. Or I can use Abra as my investment mechanism and then move small amounts over to PayPal when I want to make a payment. So that's going to be a reasonable way for many people to manage their money in the future, including via stablecoins and central bank digital currencies, which we talked about last week. So many people may not like this as it seems to violate kind of the first principles of Bitcoin, but I think for a lot of people this is a much easier solution, kind of that integration of Abra as your bank accounts maybe in the future, and something like PayPal as your like almost like your payment card, but via an app. So that's pretty cool. So PayPal users actually don't own the assets. PayPal owns them and provides you effectively with what's called an IOU. And they provide custody via a third party called Paxos. Paxos is also a partner of Abra. Paxos is the same company that managed the Pax dollar stablecoin also available in the Abra app, which we talked about last week. And so this whole move by PayPal actually reminds me a little bit of what Apple did a few years ago. Before the iPhone, those of you who are a little older, you may remember about 15 years ago, Apple had a deal with Motorola. Motorola had this really kind of cheap, crappy music phone, but Apple partnered with them, integrated iTunes, learned how to do it right, and then built their own phone. So I think PayPal is taking the same approach here with Paxos, and I think they're eventually going to try to build an entire crypto stack themselves, maybe over the coming 5 to 10 years. And I think they're going to try to become a major player in this central bank digital currency ecosystem because that eliminates a lot of their dependencies on different bank partners that they have in different countries. All companies in the crypto space have this issue as well, where we're all dependent upon different banking and payment partners. So I think the more builders we have in the crypto space, the better off everyone is going to be. And I think that's fantastic news for all of us. Okay, so we have even more questions coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about our Back to Basics series first, about Ethereum and DeFi. So if you have questions about Ethereum and DeFi that I don't answer in the next couple of minutes, then please ask those questions. We'll do some demos as well once we get to that, and so tee up your questions, and we'll get right back to them. So I want to talk for a few minutes about Ethereum before we get to DeFi, because basically understanding Ethereum is really essential to understanding DeFi today. So as you know, Ethereum is really one of the basics, the staples of the cryptocurrencies that we support in Abra. What is Ethereum at its core? Well, Ethereum is a decentralized platform that runs smart contracts. Smart contracts are applications that run exactly as programmed in theory without any possibility of downtime, censorship, fraud, or third-party interference if they're implemented correctly, right? So smart contracts basically run on what we call a Ethereum virtual machine, which is a world computer, okay? But at its core, Ethereum is a blockchain system where thousands of computers around the globe are networked together to create a distributed, decentralized computer. So instead of just the laptop on your desk, you're effectively taking advantage of every computer in the world that's part of this Ethereum network. Okay? This computer runs an operating system called the Ethereum Virtual Machine, or EVM. The EVM understands and executes the software written in Solidity or other Ethereum programming languages, and that's how you make smart contracts. So you may have heard of Solidity. It's basically the language used to tell Ethereum what smart contracts to run, okay? The applications executed by the EVM, again, are called these smart contracts. It's just a program that controls the transfer of Ethereum between accounts if certain conditions are met. So for example, a smart contract for landlords could live on Ethereum where the locks in your apartment only continue to open if the renter pays their monthly bill, right? So if you pay the bill, the lock opens. If you don't pay the bill, your apartment gets locked, right? So it's not free to access and run these contracts or computations on the Ethereum blockchain. Just like in Bitcoin, right? A native cryptocurrency is necessary for the Ethereum blockchain to function. Bitcoin is used to transfer value within a digitally distributed ledger known as the Bitcoin blockchain. Ether, or ETH, is the native token that enables users to pay to execute smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. So why is Ethereum important? So a growing number of entrepreneurs and developers view Ethereum as a valuable tool and have started to use it to build decentralized businesses that could not have existed before. Ethereum smart contracts can be used to eliminate third parties from theoretically many industries, certainly starting with finance, which is the backbone or the basic idea, I should say, behind DeFi. This would lower cost in many cases and create much more secure products, also in theory. Ethereum use cases include decentralized identity, supply chain management, democratized crowdfunding, which we've seen already examples of publicly, and of course, DeFi itself. Now, because of things like stablecoins and DeFi, the demand for Ether has increased rapidly over the past couple of years. The Ethereum network now processes way more transactions per day than Bitcoin does. the number of applications and businesses has been increasing literally at an exponential rate. So Ethereum is only a few years old, but it's showing tremendous potential and promise to create a trustless, decentralized, world that would be used by literally billions of people eventually. The big challenge with Ethereum right now is scalability. As you know, Ethereum 2.0 is in the works, and that promises to address a lot of the scalability issues with Ethereum 1.0. Ethereum 1.0 basically used a lot of the principles of Bitcoin, but in a different way using these smart contracts. Ethereum 2.0 tries to integrate technologies like proof of stake, which we've talked about in the past, sharding, which we've also talked about, to basically make it scale infinitely higher than it does today. As a reminder, you can also buy and invest in ETH in the Abra app. I will show you quickly how to do that. So if you have the Abra app open, and I'm going to go back to the Abra app here, okay, pick up where we left off. So now I have some true USD. See the USD balance of $23.95. Let's say I want to buy $5 worth of ETH. I'm going to press exchange. See in the bottom right, there's an exchange button. I'm going to exchange from TrueUSD. I'm going to scroll down and choose ETH, Ethereum. There it is. In the amount, I'm going to type in $5. Press review. And I now have bought $5 worth of ETH in the Abra app. Okay. So this leads to a broader discussion on DeFi itself. All right. So DeFi is basically one application of Ethereum. It's not the only application of Ethereum, but it's one application. All right. So let's get into that for a second. If you haven't read this week's newsletter, I strongly encourage you to do so. It included a guest post from a gentleman named Joey Krug, who's the CIO at Pantera Capital, which is a crypto hedge fund, a venture fund, and one of Abra's earliest investors. So we're real fans of Pantera and the work they've done. Joey's also a co-founder of Augur, which also is one of the cryptos listed in the Abra app, and he's an amazing young expert on all things crypto. Okay, so I'm going to give you kind of a summary overview of that now, and then we will I'll reference you to the details. So to do that, I've got a chart of, and again, this is a little bit beyond the scope of Abra, but because we want our users to understand where this is going, we're going to spend a little bit of time on it and then allow you to kind of educate yourself, because some of these tokens are available on Abra and more will be available in the future. And a lot of this is going to be part and parcel to how Abra may work in the future. So we want you to understand. So if you've ever tried to research how DeFi works, it's funny, these days you've probably seen references to vegetables, Japanese cuisines, farming, and a lot of terms you're like, well, what do these have to do with crypto? So we want to help you to make sense of this DeFi landscape. And so this chart you see here gives you an overview of the core components of the ecosystem with different companies and projects that are examples of each of those components. All right, so to start off, we have at the top, we have what we call the aggregators and the wallets. And the aggregators and the wallets are basically interfaces that allow you to interact with the whole DeFi or decentralized finance ecosystem. So Yearn, for example, is one of the main options today, and they allow you to basically give them your money and they manage it for you. And you can do this for ETH or a bunch of stable coins that are based on ETH. And the great thing about Ethereum is that all of these contracts can kind of interact with each other using these DeFi services. This other one, InstaDApp, it's more of a do-it-yourself thing for a little bit more advanced people. And it's kind of like the E-Trade model. And basically you get like all kinds of different services that you can pick and choose the services you like, kind of like your broker or bank, but a little bit more decentralized, right? So you have control over your own money. It's pretty cool what they've been able to figure out how to do. Next, of course, we have these decentralized exchanges or DEXs. Not listed here is one of the bigger ones called Uniswap. That's the one that if you've been doing anything in DeFi, you've probably heard of already. But there's also Vega, which is launching a decentralized derivatives exchange, which is supposed to be live later this year. Injective, is just recently launched, and there's lots more decentralized exchanges out there. You can just Google them or go on Twitter and you can find them. Then, of course, we have lending. This is what really is making DeFi interesting. And this is tangentially related to the interest accounts at Abra, right? So as a reminder, you can go into your Abra interest account, deposit your dollars or Bitcoin or Litecoin on dollars. You can make 10%. And effectively, more or less what you're doing, when you make a deposit at a bank, what you're basically doing is you're lending the bank your money, right? And that's what the FDIC insurance does, because if the bank can't pay back the money to you when you try to use your ATM card, the FDIC steps in and basically pays you the money back. With Abra and other services that are like Abra, you're also lending us your crypto. And in exchange, if you're using our Abra interest account, we pay you interest. If you're using the trading account, you're not lending us your crypto. We're actually holding it for you via our custodian so that you can trade. Okay. So in the interest account, just like a bank, you're getting interest on those cryptos, but you're basically lending us the crypto to do it, and then we generate the yield for you. In DeFi, it's a little bit different. You're actually lending the service effectively to the DeFi network, right? So basically, you've got services like Compound, Maker, Aave, and these services have basically really been propelling the DeFi space forward this year. Many investors have been borrowing and lending crypto assets using these protocols, and they've been able to generate 5 to 15% or more in yield in certain cases. Part of the challenge with that yield is some of it is paid out in these DeFi protocol tokens. And so you're taking principal risk on those tokens. Whereas with a CeFi/DeFi service like Abra, if you deposit dollars, you're paid out in dollars. So you're not actually taking risk that the value of the token will go down. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. So so we also talked about the derivative exchanges. Of course, we have the actual DEX themselves. I mentioned Uniswap. And Uniswap is interesting because if you've ever used an exchange, they have this concept of an order book. So you see the people who want to buy, and that gets married with the people who want to sell. Uniswap completely does away with this concept of an order book and introduces this concept of a liquidity pool that allows for instantaneous swaps without the DEX having to take ownership of your crypto, which is super interesting, right? So I think this is the future of trading. I think this is something that eventually even Abra and other wallets will be doing. And this whole Uniswap model is a really interesting case study in a better way to do trading. Also, in theory, at scale, a safer way to do trading, assuming that these smart contracts are implemented correctly. We'll talk more in the future about liquidity pools. They're a little bit beyond. You can Google them. There's really great explanations online. They're a little bit beyond what I wanted to cover today because we have a lot of questions to get to. But then there's the marketplaces. These connect merchants and consumers without actually a third-party intermediary. So an example of a third-party intermediary would be like Visa or MasterCard, right? Or in the US, ACH or WeChat Pay, for example, in China. So an example of this type of marketplace is called Origin, and they allow developers to create decentralized versions of companies like an Airbnb or an Uber, and you literally just pay directly, and there's no middleman in the transaction. Super cool. Then, of course, we have the stablecoins. You're familiar with USDC. You've heard of Pax. You've heard of Tether. These are all basically based upon Ethereum-based contracts. But now we have decentralized versions of this with, you've heard about DAI, of course. And then we have projects like Terra, which is also really interesting. It's a Korean-based project that powers a lot of payment volume there. They've gotten, great traction in the Korean market, and now they're trying to expand outside of Korea. My understanding is they've processed billions of dollars of payment already. So the next piece, with kind of the last piece of the DeFi chain we've talked about in the past is the Oracle. We've spent a lot of time on this in the past. An Oracle, as a reminder, it basically helps you get the real world information into the Ethereum blockchain. Remember, Ethereum has no knowledge of the outside world. Okay, so how does how does an Ethereum smart contract know that you've paid the rent in that earlier example? Well, an oracle would tell the Ethereum contract that, for example, you've paid the rent, or it would tell the Ethereum blockchain that 1 ETH right now is worth $400, for example. Augur uses oracles to figure out things like who won an election, what was the price of something. Chainlink uses oracles for things like what's the price of ETH again in that example, what's the price of an OmiseGo token. Whatever it is that you're looking for, the oracle gives you that price on the Ethereum blockchain itself. Okay, and of course at the bottom we have the Ethereum blockchain itself, but not just Ethereum. There's other projects that are trying to compete with Ethereum. You have Polkadot, Near, Cosmos. Joey covered these in the article in our newsletter. Of course, you've got other projects now that are trying to get into this. This week, Stellar published a video on their YouTube feed that talks about their potential plans for adding smart contracts, which is super interesting and very exciting because Stellar's not only an investor in Abra, but a highly scalable system. The interesting thing about DeFi is what's happened this year, right? There's been an absolute surge in people using DeFi because of this lending model that I talked about before. It's basically the same thing that's driving the growth in the Abra interest account. People want to generate yield, right? So the value locked in DeFi contracts has risen like 1,500% this year. Now, there's been some hacks, and so I strongly encourage people to tread carefully with DeFi because it's very early days. There's days when Uniswap, for example, has done more trading volume, than Abra, Coinbase, and other services. But again, they've also had hacks, so you need to tread carefully and be careful with these services. Okay, like I said, it's something that Abra is looking very closely at, and we think it's got a really strong future. Okay, so that's DeFi and Ethereum. So I hope that was interesting for you. As a reminder, this was the third part in the series. 2 weeks ago, we talked about Bitcoin. We did some demos on buying Bitcoin, why Bitcoin's important. Last week, we talked about stable coins in more detail. And of course, now we just talked about Ether and DeFi. So you can go back on YouTube and you can see below if you click on the Abra channel. And by the way, click on that subscribe button if you're new to Abra. If you click on the subscribe button on YouTube, it helps promote Abra, gets us better positioning on there, and also sends us a message that you like what we're doing here. Okay. So I want to get to some of your questions, and we'll do some demos. We've got way too many questions here that I can even do in a half hour, but we'll get to as many of them as we can. Let's see. So here's some related to what we were just talking about, and then we'll also answer some Abra specific questions. What are the qualities or characteristics that will make a DeFi project successful, not only in the next few months, but also for the coming years and decades? So this is from Warley. So that's a great question. I think that right now, what's driving the interest in DeFi is being able to generate interest on your Ethereum or your stable coins, and also gain some of these protocol tokens as a kind of extra free giveaway if you deposit your tokens. And what that does is it effectively increases the interest you're earning because they're also giving you free tokens. I don't think this free token giveaway as part of DeFi can go on forever. They can't just print money forever in order for you to make money. They can at the beginning as a way to reward the early users, but eventually it has to stop. So I think there's some advantages there to being early. The disadvantage right now, related to your question about success, is the quality of the implementation, because we've already seen people lose money due to hacks, and I'm using the term hack kind of loosely here, but there's been some poor smart contract implementations that have allowed hackers to take funds from other people out of these decentralized exchanges. All right. And then the second part of the question was, will DeFi be able to totally replace traditional financial and banking systems in the next decade? I strongly believe the answer to that is yes. I think it's going to happen. I think DeFi is a better banking solution at scale. Look, I think the bottom line is that many of you watching here today, and many people around the world, no longer trust their governments, They don't trust large institutions. They kind of see banks as an extension of the government. A lot of people see Wells Fargo as an extension of the government. They're not, but that's kind of how people see them. And the lack of trust there is growing. People just don't trust the banks. They don't trust financial institutions. They don't trust the government. DeFi is a fantastic way to deal with that because it eliminates most of the trust in the system altogether and replaces it with computer software, which is extremely compelling. That's why Bitcoin is so compelling, right? Because you don't have to trust anyone once you've actually viewed the code itself, right? And the code is open source. So imagine an open source banking system accessible to 7.5 billion people with no centralized trusted third party in the middle, right? So yes, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to. Now, the second part of your question is how long is it going to take? I think it's probably a 10 to 15 year, maybe 20-year proposition to when the world truly moves to DeFi. But you're starting to see people and the banks get interested in crypto now. There was some announcements in the US about a company, for example, that just got a bank charter explicitly to get into the cryptocurrency space, and I don't think that ever happened before with a full bank charter. So it's happening. So let's see. So Akash asks, what are some of the challenges that lie ahead for DeFi proliferation? I think one of the biggest challenges for DeFi is the complexity, right? You have to use really complex wallets to manage your funds. You have to understand the basics of what a liquidity pool is if you're using Uniswap. This is beyond most people today. It's very complicated. It's very easy to mess it up and lose money. So we need to figure out how to take really simple, easy to use apps like Abra and make them work in a DeFi ecosystem. So I could see, for example, in the future, an app like Abra becoming a front end into a DeFi exchange, and then you simply push. You click on that True USD, you click on Ethereum, and the DeFi exchange spits out Ethereum into your Abra wallet instantly, and or it sends it to a friend's Ethereum wallets across the world, or it actually processes a remittance for you where you take the True USD here and it shows up as pesos in the Philippines, for example, right? So I see that coming, but we need to make it way, way easier to use. So there's a few questions here about, is this a scam? It's not a scam, right? It really is software. It's open source software. You can see it, but like I said, you need to tread carefully. If you don't know what you're doing, I would avoid it for now. Stick with Abra. Abra will, like I said, probably be doing more things in the DeFi space over time, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right. So can you, and another question here related to this, Justin asks, can you explain how staking works for compounding interest? And how are the returns compared to, say, the Abra interest account? So staking is part of the future of Ethereum that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Staking basically is the concept of putting up tokens to help validate transactions. So let me explain what I mean by that. Today, blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum use what's called proof of work, right? Which in Bitcoin, that's part of the mining process to validate transactions and generate new Bitcoin. All these computers play a game against each other, and every 10 minutes, somebody wins the game. As part of winning the game, they receive Bitcoin and deposit other transactions into the next block. That's how Ethereum works as well. The challenge with proof of work is it doesn't scale extremely well, right? It basically consumes more and more electricity over time, more and more computers. It's works great. It's extremely secure, but it has a scalability challenge. For Ethereum, they're migrating to, instead of proof of work, they're going to use what's called proof of stake. Proof of stake basically says anybody running an Ethereum node can become a validator, and based upon the stake that you're holding, meaning how much Ethereum, you have a better chance of being randomly chosen to validate the next transaction. And in exchange for that, you're going to be given more ETH back. So effectively, that becomes an interest payment that you're receiving for staking the Ethereum. So I hope that makes sense. So it's a little bit different than what Abra is doing, which is basically lending Bitcoin and Ethereum and stable coins in order to generate yield. But both effectively give you an interest rate. I wouldn't say that one is better than the other. They're just very, very different ways of earning money on your staked cryptocurrencies. And that's something that we'd also would like to do in the future is add staking to the Abra app so that if you have staked cryptocurrencies, Abra can stake them for you to earn interest. And so nothing to announce there, but it is something we would definitely like to do in the near future. All right. So let's see. Got a lot of questions here. Let's try to take a new one. Let me take a couple of Abra specific questions, and then if we have time, we'll get back to DeFi and ETH. Jim asks, this is one of my favorite questions. How does Abra set itself apart from the competition? So thank you for asking that, Jim. So basically, the way I look at it, Abra is the most complete global solution for the consumer looking to get into crypto today in the world, right? What I mean by that is we give you one-stop solution to buy and trade cryptocurrencies, right? Earn interest on your cryptocurrencies, send money all over the world and get that out into your bank account, right? And we give you lots of ways to deposit money into the app to buy, sell, trade cryptocurrencies as well. I don't know anyone who has the breadth of cryptos that Abra has. I think we're up to like 125 or maybe even more now, depending on which country you're in. We have lots of different ways to get money in and out. We have the highest interest rates for our Abra interest account in the industry. And so I don't know any other app that really has that breadth and quality that Abra does across all of these different capabilities. All right. Let's see. So Rich asks, and I'm going to kind of summarize a long question here. Obviously you can make money in both Bitcoin and Ethereum, but is Ethereum better because it has a platform to do other things than just save? Rich, I wouldn't say that Ethereum is better. I would say that they're actually solving two different problems, right? So Bitcoin is really going down the path. Excuse me. Bitcoin is going down the path of being digital gold and a better gold, and we've talked about that. And as I mentioned below, if you click on the Abra YouTube page, there's a video I did 2 weeks ago that really talks about this in detail, about the history of Bitcoin and why it's a better digital gold. Okay, Ethereum, on the other hand, is trying to become the world's computer, right? So they're trying to solve two different problems. Both are incredibly valuable. The question is ETH as an investment going to be valuable over time? ETH is not guaranteed to be scarce the way Bitcoin is, but the number of transactions on ETH is going to way surpass Bitcoin. So it may become valuable for different reasons over time. We're simply not sure. Today, they tend to move in lockstep where Bitcoin price tends to drive the entire crypto industry. I don't think that's going to be true in a few years. I think different cryptocurrencies are going to trade completely separate from each other and not move in lockstep with each other at all. Okay, we'll see when that happens. But by the way, it was also very interesting to me this week that when Bitcoin went up to 13,800, the stock market was falling and having one of its worst days of the year this week. And so that was also very encouraging to me. Let's see. Royal asks, when Bitcoin goes up in price, isn't the fee to send someone going up as well? Royal, this is often the case. It's not guaranteed to be the case, but the mining fee or network fee is actually related to the congestion in the Bitcoin network, meaning the more transactions that are being processed, the higher the fees tend to become. And so, if Bitcoin price skyrockets, yes, the fees are definitely going to go up. And that's just the nature of kind of the digital gold use case. And layer two projects like Lightning, as I talked about when we talked about PayPal, are meant to make it easier and cheaper to use Bitcoin and Ethereum to send money without paying high network fees. Let's see. Um, so Doug asked if I listened to Brian Brooks's comments this morning. Doug, I haven't gotten around to that yet, but I will. For those of you who don't know, Brian is the acting commissioner of the OCC in the United States, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. They oversee all of the nationally chartered banks in the United States. And Brian is a crypto fan. He was actually a lawyer at Facebook. Not Facebook, sorry, Coinbase. He was a lawyer at Coinbase. And so he's one of the first banking regulators in history in the United States that really understands crypto at a deep fundamental level. And so, and he's also a big believer in central bank digital currency model and, potentially looking at kind of a Bretton Woods 2.0 in the future. So I know he's been talking a lot lately, and I'm looking forward to his comments. My biggest concern about their perspective is going to be privacy. And the beauty of paper cash right now is it's very private. I'm concerned that as we get into central bank digital currencies, that we're going to lose that privacy. And it is absolutely essential, in my opinion, that when governments use this, that there is a model for consumers to transact peer-to-peer that is private. Because if there's not, a lot of people are simply not going to use it if they can get away with not using it. And so I think it behooves the governments and banks to focus on that. All right. All right. So thanks for those questions. Sandra asks, is the earned interest on the Abra app paid in Bitcoin? Sandra, good question. So I'm going to go into my interest account demonstration app here. So all of the interest is paid in the same currency that you're holding in each account. So my interest earning Bitcoin account receives interest in Bitcoin. My interest earning ETH account receives interest in ETH. My interest earning True USD account receives interest in True USD, et cetera, et cetera. We call that being paid in kind. You're paid in kind in the same currency. I hope that answers your question. And of course, by the way, you can see the rates on the right-hand side of the I'm showing you on my phone. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen in the demo. All right, good stuff. So I'm going to jump around a little here. Always have the greatest questions. So let's see if I can take a tougher one. Let's see. I have a question here. What's Abra's approach to the DeFi realm in terms of yield farming, staking, liquidity mining, data mining, or even interest earning products? So that's a great question. As I said, it's very early. I think it's too risky for us to be risking hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of your money in the DeFi space now in order to generate those high interest rates. In the future, we hope to give you an option that if you want to take advantage of potentially higher rates in DeFi, that you have the option of doing that. Or if you want the safer returns that Abra is able to generate directly, that you have the option to do that as well. So I prefer to do this in a way when we get into it where you have the option of choosing whether you want to take the risk of a DeFi solution or whether you prefer the traditional way that Abra invests the money. So Carol asks an interesting question. Can my husband, she says hubby, that's very cute, use or have control of my account if I should pass away? Carol, the answer is yes. The easiest way to do that is to have your backup phrase handy and is stored in a safety deposit box or other mechanism that your husband or hubby can access should you unfortunately pass away. We want you to live a long, happy, and healthy life, but we're all going to go eventually. And so it behooves us to take advantage of this capability to make sure that our Abra wallet passes down to the next generation. So the way to do that is, I'm going to go back to the main menu here. So up in the upper left corner, you see those three lines. We refer to that as kind of the hamburger menu. I click on that. And if you see on the fourth item from the top, it says Wallet Security. You click on Wallet Security, and then you click on View Recovery Phrase. I'm obviously not going to do that because if I show you the recovery phrase, then all of you can actually take my wallet, my demo wallet. So I don't want to do that. So when you write down that recovery phrase, Carol, you'll be able to store it safely and whoever inherits that, your husband or your children or anyone else, will be able to type that backup phrase into another instance of the Abra app running on a new phone, and they will get all of the assets that are stored in your Abra accounts. I hope that makes sense. Okay, very easy. It's also the same way that you back up Abra, so that if you get a new phone or if you lose your phone, you can use that backup phrase to recover your crypto and move them into a new wallet so that no one can steal your funds. All right. Doug asks, will Abra ever get into venture capital for crypto projects? Doug, that's a good question. I hope so. It's early still. We're very focused on executing for you, our consumers. Eventually, there's going to be more projects than Abra can execute on. So we would want to bring in partners. And at that point, we may look at investing in different projects. It's not something we're actively doing today. I've personally done that. Abra hasn't done it yet, but it's definitely something that I would love for us to be able to do in the future to help build out the ecosystem. And of course, any suggestions and ideas that you have on those projects, we're happy to talk to anyone. You can always send an email to business@abra.com if you have any partnership ideas, and the partnership team will look at those ideas, and we can post the email address in the site. Okay, we're oh, I have to mention, we have our contest winner, right? So every week now, we've been giving away crypto, Bitcoin, to people who enter our weekly contest, who help us promote Money Talks. Thank you for your support there. The winner is True Exodus, TRUXODUS on Twitter. And their question was, decentralized finance has the opportunity to bring about a more resilient and transparent financial system. I totally agree. With that being said, what should banks be doing today to ensure that they have the technology to use digital money and get in on the decentralized finance market? Wow, what a great question. You deserve to win. So what banks should be doing is a few things. One, they should be enabling cryptocurrency wallets to integrate with your bank account. They should stop blocking cryptocurrencies, crypto companies from executing transactions on your behalf. Most banks are okay with it. We have a few bad actors, and I talked about that in the past. Second, they should start looking very hard at stablecoins and cryptocurrency services themselves, right? Stablecoins represent a much cheaper way for banks to move money around, right? MoneyGram, for example, is using XRP for remittances. Now, when you pick up your pesos in Mexico, if somebody sent you money from the US using MoneyGram, you don't know that the money was transmitted using XRP, but it was. Why does that matter? Well, if I can send money as MoneyGram from the US to the Mexico via XRP, there was no bank involved in that transaction. So that disintermediates the banks. The banks basically, if they don't get into this, I think they're done, right? The same way that, FaceTime and Skype and, Zoom disintermediate telecom companies, I think DeFi disintermediates the banks. So they either need to get on the bus or the bus is going to roll them over. And it's as simple as that. Now, the good news for them is that it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen slowly over the next few years. And there will always be a few visionary leaders at these banks that get it. And then there's everybody else who's kind of like what I call the sheep, who simply follow the leaders and may get on board too late or just get run over. All right. Okay, so we have time, I think, for one or two more questions. So let me see if I can choose from the big pool here a couple of good ones. And let's see. And congratulations, True Exodus. We'll find you to get you your free Bitcoin or whatever crypto you choose. Let's see. This is an interesting question. Would governments allow DeFi or CeFi to survive? I took that question because Abra is basically a CeFi service. So understanding the government's perspective is important because you want to be able to trust Abra. Abra is a highly regulated business, right? We are overseen by FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network in the United States. Our custody partners are overseen by 50 state regulators, several federal regulators. We have a partnership with a trust bank, which is overseen by which has a state bank trust charter. And so CeFi is relatively safe because it's so highly regulated by the government. My concern right now about DeFi is that a lot of the people implementing DeFi think that they're outside the scope of existing banking and e-money regulations because it's DeFi and there's no central servers. I actually don't think that's true. I mean, a lot of these DeFi services are running on Amazon Web Services. They could easily be shut off. If you could easily shut something off, it's not yet fully decentralized, and that's the problem. And so I think that governments are taking a hard look at DeFi, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of these DeFi operators get unfriendly visits from some of these regulators in the short term. In the long term, the governments will have no choice but to accept that DeFi is what the people want. Eventually, people get what they want, right? For example, you're starting to see decriminalization of recreational drug use because the vast majority of people don't have a problem with it and prefer that people police themselves, okay? And also because it has a lot of health benefits. I think there's an analogy to be had in decentralized finance. There's a tremendous number of benefits to the consumer, but it scares many governments because they can't watch what you're doing. They don't have control. It's harder to tax, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually, you're going to get what you want because that's the nature of capitalism, right? Eventually, capitalism finds a way. So I'm pretty bullish on the future of DeFi. And like I said, I think eventually you're going to get what you want. All right, that's an hour. Uh, long show. Thanks for sticking with us. I hope it was exciting and interesting for you. Share the show with your friends via the links below. Subscribe on our channels, Facebook, YouTube, especially on YouTube. It sends us a clear message that you support Money Talks. Have a fantastic weekend. Let's see Bitcoin keep going to the moon and keep stacking those sats. Keep stacking those sats. Stay safe, wear your mask, and if you're in the United States, of course, you don't need to hear this from me, but don't forget to vote. And in the meantime, have a wonderful, safe weekend.